The first speaker against the motion has been headmaster of Harrow for 11 years. His previous teaching experience includes Eton and indeed also the public sector, and he's currently a governor of 6 schools. Ladies and gentlemen, Barnaby Lenon.
Thank you, Francis. Well, this morning I was standing in my study punishing a boy when the phone rang. It was my secretary. Headmaster, she said, I've got someone on the phone from Mauritius who wants you to come and open a branch of Harrow there. Oh, how interesting, I thought. How tempting. How incredible, you may be thinking. But ladies and gentlemen, I tell you an absolute truth, that I get such a phone call or email asking me to set up a branch of Harrow somewhere in the world every month, and have done for the last 2 or 3 years. In Britain, we like to knock things which are successful. But if we were to ask people outside this island what things they especially admired about Britain, in the top 4 or 5, alongside the Queen, no doubt, and the Army, would be British public schools. And I believe this to be true because I know that in the past year, every single public school has been approached by one country or another to set up a franchise branch abroad. At Harrow, we've set up 3 so far. If we're a blight on British society, then the blight is spreading fast, particularly in China, where we've already got one and we're about to build another. The Chinese love us. Perhaps public schools are more suited to a communist society. I don't know. But what I do know is that in Beijing, right now, there are boys and girls walking to school wearing straw hats with the word Harrow printed on their smart blue blazers. And every year, tens of thousands of students fly in from all over the world to study in British public schools, despite the distance, despite the horrendous cost, despite the privations of British public schools compared to the comforts of home, because these wretched British public schools are regarded by them as being the best in the world. And don't take my word for it. Look up on the internet PISA, the Programme for International Student Assessment, which, funded by the OECD, is an attempt to measure the quality of education in 43 countries around the world. And these PISA tests have been administered recently to 10,000 15-year-olds in each of these 43 countries. It's the most rigorous project ever undertaken to assess what makes schooling effective. And the United Kingdom, in terms of reading, comes 17th, and in terms of maths, 24th out of this group of 43 countries. However, UK public schools, independent schools, achieved the best results in the world, a score well above any other group of schools, state or private. When I taught at Eton, I had care of a young David Cameron and Boris Johnson. The one intelligent, understated, well-dressed. The other precocious, overstated and scruffy. I also taught a number of boys who went on to win multiple gold medals at successive Olympic Games. But I don't apologise for this, because what the PISA results show is that public schools are not part of a problem, they're part of a solution. They provide a template for other schools to follow. At the heart of this debate is obviously going to be the idea that pupils who go to public schools are a socially homogenous, wealthy and privileged elite. But the fact is that 1/3 of pupils at private schools are today receiving financial help with their fees, and most of those are on means-tested bursaries. And not surprisingly, therefore, many of them come from households with incomes well below the national average. This is not chicken feed. We're talking about last year £600 million being spent on this assistance. And I know this from my own experience. In Croydon, the Whitgift Foundation moved the school of which I was the headmaster from the centre of the town to the edge. And on what had been my cricket fields, they built the Whitgift Shopping Centre. At that time, the largest covered shopping centre in Europe, and the income from this was used to provide means-tested bursaries. And so much money was raised that now every single child at the school is eligible for a free place if they need it, if their parents' means warrant it. Over 2,800 children are being educated at the Whitgift Foundation schools this year, and nearly half of those are receiving some form of financial assistance, many of them having the whole of their fee paid. And what's more, 23% of the pupils at public schools are from a minority ethnic background, more than in most state schools. And in many of the best public schools in London and Birmingham, the majority of the pupils are now non-white, and their schools are providing them with a ladder to prosperity that their parents envisaged when they came to this country. Many of us would argue that some academic subjects are more useful than others, and amongst the most valuable subjects you might include modern languages and science. Modern languages and sciences are in decline in the majority of schools in this country, and it is the public schools that are sustaining them. Without us, there would be a massive hole in the educational provision in this country. Over the past 6 years, 63% of all modern foreign language A-level A grades were awarded to independent school pupils. So it's not hard to conclude that our schools now prop up the study of modern languages in England. Independent school pupils are twice as likely to apply to study languages at university than other pupils. Having an education system that produces graduates with language skills, I would argue, is crucial to our economy. And moreover, a steady flow of language graduates is necessary to provide future language teachers, both for the independent and the maintained sector. In science, we see exactly the same picture. State school pupils are much more likely to take dual award easy science GCSE, whereas independent schools, we tend to take the harder single sciences. At A-level, potential scientists in the state sector have shifted to the soft sciences, particularly psychology, whereas the public schools have stuck with the hard science, particularly physics and chemistry. So it is, ladies and gentlemen, that 4 out of 10 leading scientists in this country went to public schools. 43% of the Fellows of the Royal Society and the British Academy. Is the production of nearly half the country's leading research scientists a blight on British society? Yes, of course, pupils who go to public schools are privileged, as are the pupils who go to any good school in this country. Public school, grammar school, academy, a good comprehensive, they're all privileged because in this country, despite massive investment, despite 60 years in which hundreds of politicians and thousands of civil servants and hundreds of thousands of local authority officials have been paid billions to run the 93% of our schools that we're really thinking about. Despite the standard of education, the standard of education in so many of our schools is so poor that if you happen to go to a good one, you're privileged. And at the heart of this debate is the question, is privilege a bad thing? Is it a bad thing? What about if that privilege has been earned? What about if that privilege simply means going to a better school than average? And what about if the word that is being used is privileged, when what we really mean is successful? Thank you.